This is the Flavor of Leadership podcast. I am your host, Clint Hoops. Together, we explore the unique blend of leadership wisdom that helps top leaders consistently achieve work goals, develop personally, and find fulfillment with family. Let's get started. This is episode number 42. You know, it seems like the last year or so has been kind of a black hole for movies. I don't know if you feel the same way, but it just feels like there hasn't been much come out. There have been a few little glimmers of hope every once in a while, but COVID definitely has taken its toll on the movie industry. But it's starting to recover, it seems. But one thing that I know my family still enjoys, even when there's not a lot of new movies out, is just good old classic Disney movies. There are a few movies that have as wide of appeal as a good old-fashioned Disney movie. It seems like in most of these classic Disney movies, you can be entertained and laugh while also being inspired to beat the odds and do something great, like one of the characters. The movie Brave is a Disney movie, and it is one with just such a story, right? So the movie Brave, if you haven't seen it, definitely worth seeing. I've really enjoyed the movie Brave. It is set in Scotland, with the main character being a princess named Merida. Yeah, I considered, saying her name with a Scottish accent, but you may just have to watch the movie if you don't know how she says it. But early in the movie, Merida is struggling with her responsibilities as the princess, and her mom tells her, a story to help her out. So kind of the traditional Disney theme, right? They're struggling with their responsibilities and the weight of what's before them, right? So Merida's struggling with this. Her mom then tells her this story, trying to help her out, help bring her along, help her understand how important her role is as princess in their Scottish kingdom. So the story that her mom tells her is of an ancient legend where there was a king who was getting older, and he decided to divide his kingdom into 4 parts before he died, with one part for each of his 4 sons. However, the oldest son wanted the entire kingdom for himself, and the entire kingdom fell. Right? So this selfish son didn't want to share the kingdom with his other 3 brothers. He wanted it all for himself. And because of that, all of the kingdom fell. So the mom was trying to teach Merida about her roles and responsibilities and wanted her to learn some things, but Merida would not listen. She would not learn. She thought these were just stories. So this is when her mom said something very interesting to her. She said this. She says, "Legends are lessons. They ring with truths." Legends are lessons. They ring with truths. So this little quote, it makes me think of parables and fables as well, right? So history, from the Bible to other cultures to Aesop's fables, all are full of stories, and some of them are true, and some are just stories that are made up to help us understand something that applies to us. They're often simple stories that when we hear them, we will often understand the part that's most important for us at that point in our lives. So we may hear the story at different times of our lives and glean something different, depending on what we need. And so really, that person hearing the story gets to apply it to their own situation. Truths or true principles can be gleaned through so many of these stories that we have through history. But what about the stories or legends within your own organization or within your own family? So the history of your organization, the one that you work for, it might be short. It might be 6 months. It might be 6 years. It might be 60 years. Who knows, depending on where you work. But every organization has a history. And this history of your organization can be very important to your future, not only to help you not make the same mistakes twice, which is why it's so good to record our history to make sure we don't go down those same paths, but also to help maintain a clear vision of the future, where we want to go. Everyone wants to be a part of a winning team. And hearing stories from the past, when the company's founders or when other employees were able to overcome the odds, just like in the Disney shows, right? It may not seem as glamorous, right, as in the Disney show, but in the end, it's equally important. It's making the difference for the company and for what needed to happen. These are people that often overcame great odds. And at the moment, they didn't know what they were doing was as great as it was. And I imagine some of these shows and some of these histories that we read, sometimes the same way. They don't often know that the drudgery and the hard things they're doing right now, how much of a difference they're going to make into the future to those that look back. So as they're overcoming the odds, maybe they're making it through a tough market. And this can be inspiring, provide confidence to employees that are now years later going through something similar. Help them understand that we've overcome these odds in the past and we will do it again. We have what it takes as an organization. So in the same way that legends are a lesson that ring with truths, these stories can ring with true principles. And when done correctly, can help our people and help ourselves know the direction to go. Help give us confidence. Helps give us motivation. The same is true for our families. You know, I can remember hearing the stories of my dad when he was a young father. He was doing whatever he had to do to provide for his young family, both financially and emotionally and spiritually, and all of the ways that were important with him and my mom. So this meant working hard, sacrificing himself, his time, everything to ensure comfort for his family. He helped build a great life with my mom for our family. And, you know, these stories have helped me learn some of these true principles from a young age. My kids, they go to their grandparents, my parents, and they see the same things. And they learn that there are some lessons to learn from the past. You know, one of the things that I've learned from seeing my dad, my mom work so hard is that I learned early on that having children is one of the greatest joys in life. And I knew from a young age that I wanted to have kids as well, because I saw how happy my parents were to have us in their lives. And the same is true for me today. I saw that if you worked hard and you ensured that your family is taken care of first before your own wants, that things would work out. And you'd be happy too. And it would all be worth it in the end. Now, these seem like very simple lessons, but I'll tell you, they rang true to me at a young age. And I never doubted that they were true. And I never doubted that I would work hard for my family someday, because that was what I was important. And that's what those stories, the history, the truth, the true principles that I learned taught me. So what stories at work or in your family from your past can teach principles that you can use to lead and teach those in your organization or those in your family better? Think about it in your life. And if you can't remember stories, ask around. Find out. Listen for those great things. Write them down and start recording them in your family, in your organization. Write them down yourselves. Record them for the future. You think you won't forget these important things, but you do. Take the time to make the record, and it will make the difference for the future. You got this. Until next week.
Thanks for joining me on this week's episode of the Flavor of Leadership podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, please share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast player. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback for us, you can reach me directly at flavorofleadership.com. Thanks for listening.